The water was lukewarm, barely enough to chase away the chill from the drafty house, but it was the only time of day I felt remotely human. Showers were my 5 stolen minutes of quiet. No yelling, no insults, no "you're not good enough" echoing through the hallway. I closed my eyes, breathing in the steam, trying to convince myself I belonged anywhere but here. I reached for the soap on the rack, the same cheap white bar I used every night. It smelled different, sharper, like cleaning supplies, but I ignored it. Nothing in this house ever felt right anyway. I rubbed it against my arms, shoulders, neck, and then it started. The sting hit first, a sharp, prickling sensation, like sunburn under my skin. Then it spread fast, vicious, like my body was on fire from the inside out. I gasped, dropped the soap, and clawed at my arms under the water. It only made it worse. My skin burned, then peeled in thin patches, raw and angry. Panic swelled in my chest, tears blurring my vision as I turned off the shower and stumbled out, dripping and shaking. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. I yanked a towel around me, heart pounding, desperate for someone to help. But the second I opened the bathroom door, I heard laughter. My sister leaned against the wall, phone in hand, recording me like I was part of a sick reality show. "Wow," she drawled, eyes glinting with cruelty. "Guess even soap can't stand you." My mom appeared behind her, lighting a cigarette, smirking like this was the highlight of her day. "Even your body's rejecting you now," she said, blowing out smoke. "Maybe it finally knows you never should have been here." Dad sat in his recliner in the living room, barely glancing over. "Keep it down," he muttered, eyes glued to the TV. Always so dramatic. I stood there, towel clutched tight, skin blistering, throat closing up like I couldn't breathe. My voice cracked as I whispered, "Why would you do this?" My sister shrugged, grin widening. "It was funny." Mom chuckled, turning away like I was an inconvenience. "Go wash it off and stop ruining everyone's night." I didn't move. My feet felt glued to the floor, partly from fear, partly from disbelief that the people who were supposed to protect me thought this was entertainment. My arms burned, my heart ached worse, and I realized there wasn't a part of me left they hadn't tried to destroy. That night, long after the house fell silent, I sat on my bed, staring at my peeling skin under the dim glow of a broken lamp. The pain wasn't just physical. It was like every cruel word, every laugh, every time they treated me like less than human had crawled under my skin and left scars nobody else could see. I pressed my hands into the mattress, shaking with silent sobs, knowing tomorrow would be no different. But something in me cracked open that night, not the part they wanted to break, but a new part they'd never met before, a part that wasn't interested in surviving quietly anymore. I thought about every bruise, every insult, every humiliation they'd piled on me for years, and a single thought settled in my mind like a promise carved in stone. This doesn't end with me crying anymore. For the next few days, I moved differently. I didn't ask for anything. I didn't respond to their snide comments or taunts. I stopped looking at my sister when she tried to provoke me. I didn't flinch when Mom called me waste of space or when Dad muttered, "Should have left you at the hospital." I went silent, and my silence unnerved them more than any words ever could. I started noticing things. The way my sister guarded her vanity like treasure, obsessed with her hair and perfect skin. How Mom clung to her reputation with neighbors, desperate to seem like a respectable, kind mother in public. How Dad's only joy was his nightly ritual TV, snacks, and peace and quiet he stole by shutting me out. Their power came from comfort, control, and pride, and slowly I began to wonder what would happen if I took all three away. Every burn on my arms reminded me that they had made pain my second skin. But this time, I wasn't going to hide it or beg them to stop. I was going to make them feel it not on their bodies, but in their lives. A quiet, creeping discomfort they couldn't escape, a helplessness they couldn't laugh away. The night the bleach burned me was the last night they saw me as weak. The next time they looked at me, it would be with faces pale and frozen, the way I looked in the bathroom mirror, only this time, it would be their turn to feel unwanted in their own home. And I promised myself, staring at my blistered arms in the dark, they'll learn what it feels like to have everything turn against you without a single drop of bleach. The days crawled forward, heavy with silence that wasn't mine anymore. It was theirs. For years, my screams had been the background noise of this house, my cries like a broken record they loved to replay. But now, I gave them nothing. No tears, no anger, not even a glance when they tried to provoke me, and it scared them more than anything else I'd ever done. I started noticing the tremor in my sister's voice when her jokes didn't land. She'd sneer, "Don't you have anything to say, freak?" And I'd just look at her, empty-eyed, until she shifted uncomfortably and left the room. My mom grew restless, snapping over small things, slamming cabinets when I didn't react to her insults. The control they'd fed on for years was slipping through their fingers like sand, and for the first time, I wasn't their entertainment anymore. But silent strength wasn't enough. They had laughed while my skin burned. They had looked at me like I was filth they regretted keeping. If all they understood was cruelty, then I'd give them cruelty in a way they couldn't see coming. Not blood, not police, not proof, something far worse. I spent nights lying awake, mapping out their world. My sister's vanity was her altar. She prayed to her reflection every morning. My mom's precious circle of friends adored her perfect home and well-kept life. My dad had nothing except his comfort, a chair, a beer, and the illusion of peace. They thrived on three things: image, comfort, and the belief they were untouchable. I started dismantling that belief piece by piece. It began with my sister. One night while everyone slept, I took every expensive cream, soap, and makeup product she owned and swapped them for harmless mixtures that smelled rancid or stained her skin orange for hours. Nothing dangerous, just enough to make her reflection a stranger. By the end of the week, she wouldn't leave the house, snapping at everyone, screaming about bad luck, crying over how she looked. I said nothing, just watched her unravel like a sweater pulled at one loose thread. Then I moved to Mom. Her obsession was the house's appearance. I didn't destroy anything. I simply shifted everything out of place. A spilled drink left faint stains on her favorite tablecloth. A permanent smell of spoiled milk lingered in the kitchen no matter how much she scrubbed. Tiny scratches appeared on the living room wall, invisible to anyone else but glaring to her. Her friends came over for coffee one morning and wrinkled their noses at the odor I'd planted hours before. I caught her later, sitting on the floor, muttering that the house felt wrong, like she couldn't control it anymore. And Dad? His comfort was silence, peace, so I took it away without ever speaking. I rearranged his remote every night, hid his cigarettes, turned the volume down on the TV just enough that he thought it was breaking. One night, I unplugged the fridge and plugged it back in when he wasn't looking, spoiling his precious stash of beer. He came home to sour foam and slammed doors for hours, losing the only joy he had left. By the third week, the house was no longer theirs. It wasn't safe, it wasn't perfect, and it wasn't in their control. Every day something went wrong. Every day they woke up a little more paranoid, a little more broken, whispering that maybe the house was cursed. Maybe they were cursed. And every day I watched with quiet satisfaction. They had turned my body against me once, laughing while my skin peeled. Now I turned their entire world against them, inch by inch, until they couldn't laugh anymore. One night, my sister finally snapped at dinner, slamming her fork down. "She's doing it!" she screamed, pointing at me with wild eyes. "She's ruining everything!" Mom glared, but there was fear under it now, a tiny tremble in her hand. "How? She hasn't done anything. She's just sitting there like a freak." I lifted my gaze slowly, met both their stares, and let a small smile creep across my lips. The kind of smile that says, "You don't even know what I've taken from you yet." "I'm just living here," I said softly, voice calm but heavy enough to make them shiver. Maybe this house is just starting to feel like it does to me." Neither of them spoke. The laughter that used to follow every cruel act was gone, replaced by the uneasy scrape of forks on plates and the sound of their own dread creeping in. I went to bed that night with a strange, steady feeling in my chest. For the first time in years, they weren't sure who held the power anymore, and by the time I was done, they were going to be begging for the piece they'd stolen from me. By the fourth week, the house didn't sound like the same place anymore. There were no jokes about me, no laughter in the kitchen, no self-satisfied giggles behind closed doors. Instead, it was full of whispers, slammed doors, sleepless footsteps pacing at night. For once, the fear wasn't mine to carry. It belonged to them. I woke up one morning to the sound of my sister sobbing in the bathroom, the same bathroom where she'd swapped my soap for bleach. Her voice was shaky, desperate. "Mom, my hair won't stop falling out. It's just coming out in clumps." She sounded terrified. I leaned against the hallway wall, silent, listening to the panic she had once caused me. It wasn't Bleach this time. I hadn't done anything to her physically. I'd just let her spiral, sabotaging the little things she clung to until her own paranoia did the rest. She couldn't trust a single bottle on her shelf anymore. Mom was no better. She'd started cleaning the house until her hands were raw, screaming that something is rotting in here, even when the rooms were spotless. She couldn't have friends over anymore. Not after the last visit when a stink I planted made everyone gag. The gossip that followed ruined her perfect mom reputation in the neighborhood. Now, when she went outside, she walked fast, head down, afraid someone might laugh at her the way she used to laugh at me. Dad? He'd stopped watching TV altogether. The remote, the channels, the volume. Something always glitched because I made sure it did. He sat in his chair now, beerless after too many spoiled six-packs, staring at a blank wall with a twitch in his eye, muttering that, "This house is cursed." It wasn't the house. It was me. One evening, I stood in the doorway of the dining room while they sat slumped at the table. 3 people who had once fed on my humiliation now looked like hollow shells. My sister's hair was frizzy and broken, her skin blotchy from the cheap replacements I'd left in her room. Mom's clothes were faded, stained, nothing like the queen she wanted to appear as. Dad's hands shook from stress, unable to escape the chaos he'd once demanded I swallow. I stepped into the room, quiet but deliberate. They all looked up like they'd seen a ghost. "You remember that night?" I asked, my voice calm but cutting. "The night you thought it was funny to watch my skin burn?" No one answered. My sister's lip trembled. Mom opened her mouth, then closed it again. "You said my body was rejecting me." I let my eyes sweep over them slowly. "Looks like this house is rejecting all of you now." I dropped a small object on the table, the same bar of soap they had swapped with bleach that night, now wrapped in clear plastic. Their eyes locked on it like it was a live bomb. "I kept it," I said softly, "to remind myself of what you are, but I don't need it anymore, because now, every time you wake up in this house, every time something breaks, every time your little perfect world crumbles, you'll remember me, and you'll know what it feels like to have your comfort peeled away piece by piece." I picked up my backpack from the floor, slung it over my shoulder. They just stared, pale and silent, not daring to breathe too loud. The laughter that had once filled this place was dead, buried under fear and shame. At the door, I turned back one last time. "You took my skin once," I said, voice steady, "but I took everything you built your happiness on. Now you can live the rest of your lives itching in your own filth." And with that, I walked out. Now, I live in a tiny apartment where the air doesn't smell of bleach and hate. My arms have healed, but I don't cover the scars. They're reminders that they couldn't break me. From time to time, I pass by that old house. The curtains are drawn, the lawn is overgrown, and no laughter escapes the windows anymore. They look out sometimes when they think no one's watching, faces pale, eyes haunted, like they're still waiting for something else to fall apart. Maybe they're right. Maybe their real punishment isn't what I did. Maybe it's knowing that their cruelty didn't destroy me, but it destroyed them. And that's a stain they can never wash off. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.